welcome back. Today we have Jeff Morris, and Jeff has an amazing story that I am one excited to hear, two ready to get into this conversation because just a little glimpse of what I've heard from our mutual friend Mayor Wayman Freeman. I said Freeman. Freeman.
Furman. Yeah, the Furminator.
Furman, yes. The last time he actually taught me something about that. He's like, your brain just reads it too fast. So Mayor Wayman Furman. And so we are gonna have a conversation about how you got to this point. So can you tell a little bit about your accolades of where you're at now, and then let's work backwards from there.
Okay. I'm currently an operations manager for Raisin Canes. I'm the mayor's campaign manager. I am a minister, so I do preach the gospel when they put me on calendar at Level Christ Community Church in Indio, California. I am a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a close friend.
All right. So how long have you been in the restaurant business? Because everybody loves Raisin Canes.
Yeah.
But you've also worked with some other bigger corporations as well in the respect of different industries and different things like that. So tell us a little bit how you got to this point.
So I've been in the restaurant industry, food and service industry, about 26 years. When I turned 18 years old, one of my great friends, Ivan Gutierrez, his family gave me an ice cream truck when I was 18 years old. The good thing about this ice cream business, it gave me a chance to learn how to run my own business, P&L, inventory, running numbers, different things like that. But it also, if you remember the height of the movie Friday, and there was a character named Big Perm. So I was the only black ice cream man in Coachella Valley. So everybody called me that, So Big Worm was coming through, Big Perm was coming through. So I had a lot of popularity with that. I would say that not only was I just an ice cream man, but I was probably one of the busiest ice cream men. People used to hunt me down. And literally when I was 18 years old in 1995, I was making 30 grand a year, which was a lot of money, especially from where I come from. Just growing up in the neighborhood, that was a lot of money for me and my family to help take care of my sisters and my grandmother and all my cousins. I went from there and I started working at Marie Callender's. I worked there 7 years. I became a training instructor for them. I used to fly around all the United States and open up Marie Callender's. I did that. I was in and out of fine dining in between time. Also in between time, I was doing a lot of crazy stuff too. So I was in and out of jail, in and out of prison, but I always found myself in a leadership position, even when I was in those situations. The last time that I finished all of that type of life was in 2010. I started at Buffalo Wild Wings right down the street here. I started there as a food server. I had a great mentor. The owner of the Buffalo Wild Wings really took me under his wing, and really showed me what's up with the restaurant business. And that's when I really just oh yeah, this is for me. I was general manager there for 5 years. And then the next place, he went and opened up a new company called Specialties Cafe and Bakery. And they had a place in El Segundo, California. It was right next to the Lakers facility. So I got to go there and be a training general manager for them for 3 years. It was the most awesome experience because, man, I got a few Lakers that are my friends, my personal friends now, being able to be in that environment, going to all the games and all those things because I was just right next to them, being there with the championship trophy in Magic's office, all those things. It was a great experience for my life. And then I went to Kings Hawaiian, the sweet rolls company, the bread command. And that was really gravitated to me because it was a family-owned company. So I was really close with the family, working for them for a couple of years. And then the pandemic happened. So my wife worked for a company called Proactive Company. She'd been there 26 years. And why we moved to LA is because they closed the office here in Palm Desert. But because of the pandemic and she's able to work remotely, we decided to move back to the desert. So now I'm with a company called Raisin Canes Chicken Fingers. Come see me in Palm Springs if you need some chicken fingers. We're there for all your needs. And we got a few other locations coming to Indio. And I've been with them for a little over a year now.
I love that. Okay. So throughout that process, I mean, you're going from different restaurants, different cultures, but you're also getting a little bit of trouble as well, too. And so throughout that process, what were some of the things that you what's the mindset there, between good opportunities and bad opportunities that would come through, whatever. My mother used to always say, "Why do you always find trouble?" I said, "Trouble finds me." So, what was going on in between?
You know, it all started with the ice cream truck, right? Ice cream truck gave me access that I never had before, gave me more money than I never had before. Like literally, I'm 18-year-old and I was making about $700 a day. You know what I mean? And 1995, $700 a day was a lot of money in Indio, California. But because I was the ice cream man, I knew everybody. I went through all the neighborhoods. So I knew the air conditioner man, I knew the electrician, I knew the construction worker. But then I also knew all the drug dealers too. So I started to dibble and dab in different exotic drugs. Acid was one of my main drugs, mushroom, mescaline, these high-end type of drugs, these euphorias that they used to give you in these fillings. And it wasn't so much like crack cocaine or heroin, but that was a gateway down the road. But because I had money, it gave me a different kind of party lifestyle. So when I was 18 years old, I'm going to all these music shows and these music venues, losing my mind on these drugs, 2-3 days on acid and mushrooms. And it kind of just brought me into a world that I wasn't ready for. Now, even though I worked hard every day, because you own your own business, you work every day, 7 days a week. There was no days off on the ice cream truck. Not even Christmas, I was still working on the ice cream truck. And man, I was working, I was grinding. But because of that lifestyle, I had a really hard partying lifestyle too. And when you try to mix the two, you know, the Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And because I was double-minded, I just didn't have that stability to really grow this business. I should have had 100 ice cream trucks with the popularity that I have. But because I was double-minded, I was trying to live two lifestyles, just didn't work for me.
That's interesting because, I mean, what we really talk about is like the discipline of it all, the discipline and the grind to get something done. So do you think that with the drugs, it was a bigger opportunity, or you're like, this is a side hustle?
No, so with the drugs, I didn't want to sell drugs. I just wanted to use drugs. But because I had money, I had a lot of drugs. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, I was going to go buy a 20 and 40 piece. No, I was buying bulks. I literally had vials of acid and ounces of mushrooms and different thing. And I didn't use it to sell. I used it to party. And I just had all my friends over and we would just use it all. And then the next day I would go get more and more and more and more. And the other thing that I was tormented was the sex that came with that kind of lifestyle. So, wanted to be that man and having those type of drugs and then the sex that it gave me, the euphoria, the feeling that it gave me on the inside really triggered that. And because I had that addiction as well, combined with the drugs, I was just a mess.
That's very interesting. There are classic vices that every man has. There are addictions and things that come about with success. So for you, it was like, okay, I'm making more money than the average person in the community, but now I need that extra, right? There's a quote that goes, be careful on what you entertain while waiting for God, because you want to get to this level over here, but yet in the waiting room, you're entertaining yourself, trying to keep busy, right? And a lot of times that high brings you back low. So when you finally did get caught up in that, and then you were in a low place, what was going through your mind?
When I found myself in a low place, shame, guilt, because I was the leader of my family, like the leader of my cousins, even though I wasn't the oldest, I was pretty much the leader of my family. And when I failed and when I hit rock bottom, that the shame and the guilt to get over that, I just couldn't grip on myself, Not only did I often contemplate suicide, but I tried to commit suicide, and the lifestyle that I was living, I really just had a case of the efforts. And that's like where you just don't care about anything or anything in your path. You're going to do what you want to do. And I was just really on a road to destruction. And if it wasn't for me going to prison, I probably would be dead right now, because it really saved my life. It really gave me time, and I really needed some serious time to get over all the guilt and the shame that I was going through.
That is so powerful. I feel as if a lot of people in their life, they get in that situation where it's the efforts and they're just digging themselves deeper and deeper into that pit. And sometimes as bystanders, we're looking at them, especially once you get to a point where you realize a little bit more about life. It's like, this person hasn't felt enough pain yet. Once they do, then they'll change. Would you say that that's the truth?
That is the truth. That is the absolute truth.
What was like the before the prison? Because I feel like there's always something before that wall. What was the thing before the wall for you?
Oh, man, the thing before the wall, you know, I found myself taking advantage of lots of women during that time. I was married and I was divorced at this time, and I found myself, you know, really not pimping, but just really taking advantage of women that were wealthier than me, that had the means to that. And I would say if it was the other way around, they were pimping me because I was a young stud and, you know, I was exchanging monetary things for sex with them. You know what I mean? They took care of my house. They took care of the car I drove. They took care of the gas, the bills, the money that I used to take care of my kids. They really funded that. And my drug habit at the same time was all through them. And that was really the rock bottom for me because I was really using women to get what I wanted to. And then one day I found myself in a situation where a friend of mine came over to my house and he was messing with the woman that I was messing with that time. And it wasn't a love thing, but when I found out, it was more of a disrespectful thing. And because I felt disrespected and I was from Indio and I had a street name, my name was Crook, and there was credibility there. I couldn't let that slide. And I lost my temper that day. And then I found myself in prison with my second strike for 5 years. And that really changed my life.
That is interesting. So the very thing that that was the escape and the comfort at that time was the very thing that propelled you into the change. It was forced.
Yes, it was.
That's incredible. I think not that you went to jail, not incredible that you went to jail, but I think it's incredible in the way that sometimes when God's trying to get your attention, what he does is you can either change voluntarily or involuntarily. Either way, change is going to come. So for you, okay, you're in prison now, and now what did you automatically start to reflect over the things that had happened, or did it take some time?
Don't. Let me tell you, it was a moment. And I'm sitting in the back of this police car. And really, I didn't think I was going to go to jail because, you know, it was, you know what I mean? Who wouldn't lose their mind walking home and walking in your house and finding a situation, right? But because I did go to jail, I remember the moment the police had me in the back of the car. She walks out and she seen me in the back of the car handcuffed. And she looked at me with the most evilest smile that you can do. And she blew me a kiss. She was like, and that moment, it was clear to me. Everything in my life changed from when she blew me that kiss. I knew it was the enemy at that time. I shed one tear. And at that moment, there was a peace. There was a calm. There was something that I never felt before. Like God was telling me, I got you. This is what you wanted because you were praying that I was going to remove you for the situation. And I know you said that you didn't want to go to jail, but this was the only way that I can get your attention. And I'll never forget the look on her face when she blew me that kiss. It was the most evilest smile in the world. Like, I got you now. Like the devil was like, I got you. But God, on the other hand, was like, no, I got you. And it was a peace and a calm that changed me. And, you know, you saying it wasn't the best thing. It was the best thing for me. In my situation, I needed all 5 years of that. And because of that, I went back to school. I have my master's degree in religion, right? I have my doctorate in metaphysics. I got my doctorate in motivational speaking. There's things that I was able to do because of that. Not only that, I got my firefighter one, my first responder, my hazmat. So prison was productive for me. You know what I mean? The whole time I was in, I was grinding. I was getting these degrees. I was really digging in. And it really helped me so much when I got out because a lot of people don't know that I actually have my master's degree and I have my doctorate and those different things because I don't flaunt it and I don't put. And I guess on the other end of that, it's like, oh, I got that kind of stuff in prison. I really just didn't do it on the streets, but I did it. I put the work in and I got it.
You know, it's as an entrepreneur, I am for sure no stranger to those prayers that you pray to God and then you flinch a little bit. A lot of people don't know. You ask God for to change some things, you better flinch because how that change comes about, especially if you're not ready, there's gonna be some hell to reap.
Yeah,
And a lot of times it's very uncomfortable for you. It was like almost like a Jezebel's kiss of death or life, you know, a new beginning overall. That's amazing. So that kiss was a thing that just set everything, just kind of gave you a weird sense of calmness, because it's like, I now understand.
I got to see it from a helicopter view.
Yeah.
And it just happened just like that in the back of the police car. It wasn't a process. Yeah. It wasn't when I was in jail. It wasn't when I was on the bus. It wasn't when I was in prison. It was that moment where I got clarity and peace in my heart that I've been searching for years. And that was the change. And that's when I knew, like, oh yeah, this is it right here. That I'm gonna do this. And you know, when you know you're guilty,
yeah,
and you feel like I just need mercy right now, and God really gave me mercy, because I probably could have got life for all the things that I've done, the things that I've done that nobody knows about. But this was an escape from that. It was just a little bit of time versus my whole life, or being dead for the things that I was doing at that time. I was a mess. You have no idea the things I was doing, the robbing, the stealing, the hurting people, just the jacking, just a crazy lifestyle that I was living. I had a case of the efforts. I really didn't care. I was in it and out of it, whatever it was.
So along your path, because I know for me, a lot of people don't know this, you know, when I was growing up in San Bernardino, I was definitely the black sheep of my family. I was jacking people too. So I was in and out of courts. I had a lot of court mandated anger management overall. But for me, the changing point was someone saying that they see me and they see what I could become overall. So who was that person for you?
It's my pastor right now. And I will tell you, one time I was on a good one. I was doped up, just running the streets, and I ran into him. And he gave me a verse, and it said, "Let's be still and know that I am God. I am exalted in heaven, only exalted on earth." And he just gave me the verse, and that was it. Hugged me and told me he loved me. But it stuck so much that I really had to go back and meditate on that word. And in that stillness that he spoke over my life, that's what happened to me in prison. I got that stillness. I got that peace. I got to exalt God over my life in heaven and on earth. And that was the calming force. I would say that was the changing word over my life, because at that time, even the mayor, I remember seeing the mayor, and we've been, this is my cousin, we've been close all my life, like our whole entire lives, we've been close. And one time I was on a really good one, and he ran into me. He was just like, he waved me off. He was like, he knew I was full of a mess, and he was a correctional officer, and he was doing things in his life. It was to that point to where he couldn't even communicate with me, because he wasn't trying to get caught up in what I was doing at that time. And I mean, he literally waved me off. But Pastor Tony Williams, he gave me that word, and that word really stuck with me, and I'll never forget what he did. And I always remind him of that. And he always tells me, "Man, Jeff, I remember that day." But from that moment on, there was a change that was coming because of the word of God that was spoken over my life.
Okay. So you go from that chapter of your life, now forcefully closed, because now you're isolated outside of your comfort zone and environment overall. And now you're in prison, and then you come out of prison. But while you're there, you are building yourself up. You are strengthening not only just your mind, body, but spirit as well too. What was the first thing you did when you got
out? God just did an amazing work in my life, you know. At the prison gate, my ex-wife, we had been divorced for 7 years at that time. We were married for 7 years, divorced for 7 years. She was at the gate to pick me up. So she picked me up, and she really held it down for me to give me an opportunity to grow. You know, a lot of people don't have that resource when they got out. They under pressure. Where am I going to live? Where am I going to eat? How am I going to survive? And she was really my backbone at that time. And I remember getting out, and I went to Kohl's to do a temporary job, but I had no ID Social Security card at that time. It was still coming. I was still going through that process, trying to get all that before you can go to work. And they called me out and they were like, well, we can't let you work. You know, we wanted you to work, but you can't work. And I remember walking home crying that day. And I was like, oh, man, I'm just so, I said, Lord, your word says your people will never be put to shame. Lord, I feel shame right now. Lord, I need you to help me. So I call her and I'm crying. I'm telling her about the situation. She says, okay, well, you know what? I was just looking online. Buffalo Wild Wings is doing like this hiring site thing. You should go down there. So I get home and my aunt calls me. She says, hey, they need help at Honey Bake Ham for the next 3 days because it was like during Thanksgiving time. You want to work? So I went down there to work, but it was the job fair that day. And I said, hey, and I told the manager, can I just leave to go to Buffalo Wild Wings for this job fair and then I'll come right back? He says, yeah, you go ahead, take a break in the middle and you go do that and then come back. And I remember not having many clothes. I was in dress shoes, slacks, dress shirt, and I ran from Honey Bake Ham. I was in good shape there, all the way to Buffalo Wild Wings. The first person that I meet, and I knock on the door and nobody's there. And I'm like, man, there's nobody here.
Yeah.
I run into a man named Brett Babbitt. He happened to be the owner of Buffalo Wild Wings. So I interacted with him and we had this meeting like God placed him at that door at that time. It could have been any construction worker. Anybody was there because it was just opening. But I ran into the owner and me and him connected at that moment at the door. And he was like, no, you got to go over here to the mall. The mall's where the job fair is. We got to connect. We got to talk. But he must have seen something in me because we had 160 employees at that time. So when we got ready to open, he was like, Jeff, I'm throwing a private party in the room. I want you to serve me and my family. And from that moment on, me and Brett Babbitt connected. And he was a man of God and a man of faith. And he had a vision for a restaurant room and he wanted to open and how to help people that got out of prison. Now, he didn't know I was in prison. Maybe he did know because he seen how yoked I was, but he didn't know. He didn't know the truth. I didn't put that on my application after I got the job. And then when he was getting ready to sell Buffalo Wild Wings back to franchise, I finally told him, and he was like, he wanted to open a restaurant called Hope's Kitchen that gave people that got out of prison jobs and opportunities. So when I told him, I said, well, Brett, let me tell you, man, you already been doing this. God gave you this vision for this Hope Kitchen. I am the Hope Kitchen. I said, not only did you give me this opportunity to get out with 2 strikes to become a general manager for you, but I want to tell you about 30 other people that I have hired that have criminal records that got out of prison that work for us too. And he just started to cry because you start to think about how God lined up this man, Brett from Ohio, and this guy from Indio that was in prison and aligned the stars to help me, but also open up the door for so many other people. It was just an incredible journey. So when I got out of prison, I really hit the ground running, and I really was trying to get back to where I wanted to. And I worked my butt off to get to general manager. But once I got there, and he literally just would call me every day, talk to me on the phone. Look at this. This is how you do this. This is how you review this. And it was kind of a distance relationship. And then he would come like once or twice a month and show me and teach me. And I was really a good student. And I really learned how to run a business. And I'm running a $3.4 million a year store, fresh out of prison. You know what I mean? And it's just an amazing story and an amazing testament to who God is.
I love that. Wow. Okay. And so let's talk about the process, right? So if we're really breaking down from where you began to the middle to now, and then let's also talk about a little bit of where you're going to. How would you break all those pieces down? What would be the titles for that? Like a movie has chapters and the book has chapters and different seasons and stuff. How would you break that down? How would you label each season of your life?
Yeah, I would definitely break it down to, when you see my brand, you know what I mean, the Gutter Lane brand. And I just really want to go through the process of that. And it correlates to the streets that I lived on, and in the first one, when we go to Arabia Street, and that was down in the Jail Jays area, growing up there. And it was the adolescence years, learning, picking up all these different tools with my dad being a convicted murderer and my mom being a prostitute. And the label, everybody had been calling me Crook since the day that I was born. There was no other name, and they didn't know me as Jeff. Like all the street people, little son, little crook, little crook, little crook, little crook. So now you're picking on this identity as a 6, 5, 6, 7 years old as little crook. So now you're taking on this mindset and you're clothing yourself with this crook image, right? So going through the immaturity levels of junior high and high schools and all those things, and moving to different places and different gutters around the city of Indio, and really picking up different identities, all of that. Because in your mind, because my dad was a murderer and my mom was a prostitute, you give yourself a different identity of who you are. So because I was trying to portray and fulfill this role as crook, now it got to the point where it was like, don't call me little crook no more, man. Don't call me crook. You know what I mean? I'm big crook now. You know, I'm bigger than my dad. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, you just trying to take on that pride, and you clothe yourself with this identity. And then you have this identity, and it takes you through a process, because this is how you see yourself. And how you see yourself, that's what you are. You know what I mean? Until you start clothing yourself and saying, I'm beautiful, I am smart, I am kind, I'm neat, I'm this, I'm a business owner. Until you start clothing yourself with this identity, you're not going to be that. Because you're saying that you're a failure, because you're saying, hey, my dad is a murderer, because I'm saying my mom is a prostitute, because I'm saying I'm a crook, then I took on that identity and I was living it to its fullest. And then when I get to prison, and I started to remove all of that, and I always give people this, and I was like, you know, Crook could do the time, but Jeff Morris could not do the time. So when I got up to Susanville, California, I buried Crook. And I said, please don't call me Crook no more. That's not who I am. I left him buried up in Susanville. My name is Jeffrey Morris. And I clothed myself with a different identity. So when I got out of prison, I didn't go by Crook. I didn't let my friends call me Crook. I didn't go back to the neighborhood. I stayed away from those people and those things that identify with me as Crook. And I even took it as disrespect. Like, please don't call me that, man. My name is Jeffrey Morris. So when I clothed myself with this new identity, God started to just show me different things. I was able to buy a home in a nice neighborhood. I was able to move to LA. And when I lived in LA, I moved to Redondo Beach. I literally lived right on the water. Here I have this beachfront house, sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset over the ocean, crossing the street, literally put my foot in the sand and the beach. Me and my daughters, my son would come out. It was the most awesome time in my life. And when God took me from the gutters of Indio all the way to PCH in Redondo Beach, and living this beach life and this whole different attitude. And people didn't know, like, oh man, he has 2 strikes, or he just got out of prison, because I was clothed with a different identity. And I thank God for that. And when God brought me that, he let me travel all over the world. So I got to travel to different countries, in Bali and Dominican Republic and Costa Rica. And a good friend really just turned me on to this traveling. And as we would travel all of these different countries, I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Like, man, I'm living on top of the world, the best houses, eating the best food, going to best places. I mean, floor seats, the Lakers out, season tickets for this, that. God just started to move, and it started to change who I was and give me a new identity. And, you know, finding myself back here, I realized that it was time.
Yeah.
It was time to help somebody else that's in the gutter lane situation. Somebody else is a son of a murderer. Somebody else is a daughter of a prostitute. Somebody else lives on these streets that I used to live in, and they don't feel that they have the fair shake. And I come back to tell them that you can have all that you want. And the word that I want to, oh, yes, you can, through Christ Jesus. So whatever that dream is, whatever that goal is, whatever that ambition was, you can do it. You can really do it. You know what I mean? If you have surround yourself with the right people, you clothe yourself with the right identity. And Christ can only give you that. God can only give you the true identity, because he birthed you in your mother's womb. So whatever that is, once you clothed in that, there's no stopping you. And you are the baddest person in this world. But that's twofold. You're bad enough to take everything that God has for you, but you're also bad enough to ruin everything that God has for you too.
That is so good. 1 second. Let me grab this wire for this thing. Don't worry. It's cold, man. I'm gonna come back on that identity. So. This thing lasts a little bit longer. Yep, perfect. All right, so this identity that you had to become, right? It was, did you ever really get a chance to be Jeff Morris from the beginning, or were you always just a crook from then?
No, remember I said the double-minded
Mhm.
man is unstable in all his ways. And there was a different side of me too, right? You know, in the hood at home, I was crook. Around my cousins, I was crook. But I had this life outside of that because I tried to go to church. I was an athlete. I was a good student. I was a really smart kid. You know, and it wasn't that, oh, I wasn't smart and I was an F up where I just got bad grades. No, I graduated with honors. I graduated with a 3.5 GPA. I was a really pretty good athlete. I was also involved in a lot of churches growing up, but at the same time, I struggled with identity because when I was out in the world, I got to be Jeff Morris. But when I came home, I had to be Crook. Um, and that's because of the trauma that was over my family that had to be in part of my family and all my, not only me, all my cousins, we were all together. It was about 9 of us living in this little 2-bedroom apartment and with my grandmother. And because she was going through the struggle, because it was so hard, we would live suppressed and oppressed because of this identity crisis that we are struggling with. So I was torn between the two worlds. In my mind, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be this star football player. But when I got home, I'm like, oh, what are we going to eat? There's no food to eat. You know, Crook, how are you going to do this? So I had to hustle and do different things to order to make it. We had to steal for food. We had to steal to get money to pay light bills and different things. And I had to steal underwear out the store and different things
Yeah.
that I needed growing up. But at the other end of that, I felt I was Jeff Morris because I was a good student. I was a good athlete. So I was trying to be Jeff Morris as much as I could. But once school was out, I had to become Crook again because Crook knew how to survive in this world.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna name chapter one Crook. So that's interesting. So growing up in San Marino for me, right? I had a lot of friends similar upbringings with their parents. Either one parent was gone or dead or in jail, or whatever it may be, right? For you, it sounds like the Jeff part of you is what actually kept you in survival versus the crook side of you. Because as you know, there's a lot of people that don't get second chances or even a first chance. And so the Jeff side of you is what really kept you balanced for your ability to be able to, that was your growth set over here, and then Crook was more so your fixed set over here. And so for you, okay, now transitioning out of Crook, now you're Jeff, and what's going on in your mind as well too? Do you have at that point? Do you have any imposter syndrome? Do you have any insecurities living this new lifestyle? You said that you got to a point where it would be even like insulting for people to call you crook. So where was your head at in that process?
Yeah, thank God for my wife, because of her, we had the opportunity to leave the desert behind. When I first got home, those 5, 6 years, we were doing well. We bought a home. We were living well. I was making great money. I was a general manager of Buffalo Wild Wings. But I still had a lot of things in my past, a lot of insecurity. I really had doubt, worry, fear. But I was fearless at the same time. I knew that God can do that because he was blessing me every day. But at the same time, I had insecurities. I felt like Crook can come back any moment. I felt like the trauma that I received as a child can come back any moment, the things that I had to go through. However, when we moved to Redondo Beach, it changed everything because God really showed me the impossible. And I know material things aren't everything, but living where we lived at Redondo Beach changed my mindset because now I look 6 blocks to my left and 6 blocks to my right. There was no black people. I'm the only one. You know what I mean? There was no black people. So now here it is, Jeff Morris right here in Redondo Beach. I'm this leader. Then I ran this restaurant called Specialties Cafe and Bakery. And let me tell you, there was nothing but everybody that came to my restaurant to eat. they made $150,000, $200,000 a year. So now I'm surrounded around this different kind of circle, this different kind of language, this different kind of mindset. These people wrote books and they're authors and they're actors. And then being close to the Lakers and being around all the Lakers players, and they bringing me shoes and taking me to facility and giving me tickets. It was a different kind of friendship. They're coming to my house, having dinner at my house. You know what I mean? I'm going to their house. I'm hanging out with a different type of world. So I started to see something different in me, and Crook was long gone because he wasn't even mentioned. He was a forethought. God took me over there to really just bless me. And then now he's brought me back to the desert. Nobody knows that. Nobody says the Crook word. Nobody ever mentions it. Nobody ever talks about it no more because I'm on a new level now. You know what I mean? I'm moving different. I'm talking different. I'm living different. When I'm with the mayor and a lot of people don't know. When I met you, you didn't know that. Nobody.
I was like that blazer he got on, that's sharp. I wonder if it comes in my size.
Yeah, they can't see the crook on me anymore. You know what I mean? And that's what God did. He restores everything like it never even happened. So now I'm living this lifestyle like the prison never happened. Now I'm living this lifestyle like all the trauma never happened. I'm living this lifestyle like my mom was never a prostitute. My dad was never a convicted murderer. I'm at the top of the food chain in my industry. It's a really good life.
I love that. Okay, we don't call that the awareness of change.
The awareness.
So that's the preface to Jeff. I love that. Okay, so now you're in this position and you're running Raisin Canes, and you also we talked a little bit about you're writing a book right now.
Yes.
What you want to drop the title of that book?
Yeah, here it is. It's called Gutter Lane: The Process.
I love it. So why that name?
So God given me this vision for Gutter Lane 20 years ago. And I tried to do it in the mess, right? I developed this clothing line called Gutter Lane, and I had all these different things with my clothing and my artistic mindset, the things that I was trying to develop at that time. It didn't work out, but God given me the name Gutter Lane, but it wasn't about the clothes. It was about the transition, the process that people are going through that's living in the gutter. And that's what I am. I'm a spokesperson and a leader for those people that don't have transportation, that walk everywhere just like I did, to tell them that they can make it. One thing that's weird about the desert is this: people never leave. You're surrounded by these mountains and it blocks your vision. And you have this desert mindset because it's all you see is these mountains that's blocking your vision. But once you leave, you could see the horizon. You could see what's out there. But because I think these mountains block your creativity, block your limits and what you think you can do, it holds you back. And now that God has brought me back here, I really want to do this Gutter Lane thing because I want to help everybody else that's in that gutter situation. Maybe it may be an identity, maybe physically living in the gutter, maybe it may be a mentality, maybe it be because you're in the gutter because you were molested. I was molested, so I know I could speak to that. You know what I mean? Maybe you're in the gutter because you feel like you've been in prison and you just can't bounce back. Well, I've been in prison. I got 2 strikes right now as we speak. I can tell you how to get out the gutter. Maybe it's because you didn't have everything everybody else have. You didn't have your parents in your life. I could speak to those things and give you a hope and a vision and a dream of the process that I had to go through to overcome that, to have everything that you wanted in life. And, I literally go to sleep at night and there's nothing that I want. Everything that I wanted, everything that I dreamed, I can have. In any place I wanted to go, I could literally close my eyes, spin the globe, point there, and we could travel there. You know what I mean? And it's just, God can really do that for you too. And I want to let everybody know that even though you may be in a gutter situation right now in your life, God has a plan for you. And there's more. And it's not the situation that you're living in. And you can overcome that through Christ Jesus.
I love what you said. You said that you were trying to build it in a mess. I think so many people are looking for change, but they don't understand that in order for change to come, there needs to be a blank canvas, and there also a purge needs to happen as well too. And if you're trying to build something in a mess and you're asking yourself why there's no momentum or whatever, that's like driving a car into quicksand. You're trying to get out, but the more you struggle, the worse it becomes. So there needs to be a season of purging. There needs to be a season of wiping the canvas clean so that you can have a clear sight of understanding of what needs to be done. Because before there can be creation, there must be purpose and intent. And then so for you, going into this next season of your life, what is your intent?
And I just want to piggyback off what you said right there. And the purging, what people can't let go, there's like Linus with his blanket, right? Mm-hmm. They can never let it go. And it always comes with attachment to a place, a street, a neighborhood. And more importantly, what the attachment is with people. And because you can't let people go, you will never grow. And you have to learn that sometimes you outgrow those neighborhoods, you outgrow those situations, you outgrow people, and you just think like, man, how I'm going to be detached from my mom, you know what I mean? But you don't realize that your mom, your whole life has been holding you down, keeping you in this bondage. And God is trying to free you from that. And you can't let go of these attachments to be purged, to be cleansed, to get your slate wiped clean, because you have these attachments. And the hardest thing that people can let go of jobs, people can let go of homes, they can let go of cars, but people can't let go of people. And God's saying, no, I need you to let go of some of these people in your life, these surroundings in your life, so you can go somewhere. And when I started to let go with everybody that identified with me as crook, then I was able to grow. So I want to encourage somebody today that, man, check your people that you're around. Check and see if they're here to help you build or they're just tearing you down.
I think a lot of times too, people walk around with blinders on, unable to see who's good for them and who's bad for them. You know, so what are some of the metrics? I'll share two. You can share two. What are two metrics that you look at as far as good people?
You know, one of the things that, where are you going? What direction you're going? Because everybody has good. There's no such thing as bad person. But where are you going with your life? Are you just going to stay right here? And the direction, what's your itinerary? And that's how we judge if you are good or not, because everybody's good and everybody has bad. There's no such thing as, oh, this person's gooder than this person, this person. No, everybody has a choice, because we all have choices. The first thing what's your itinerary? The itinerary, where you going in life, that's going to tell me if you're good. Where are you going? What are you talking about? What are you doing right now? Where's your momentum going? Where are you leading to? And the second thing is, what are you doing for other people? When I think about the parable in the Bible, it says, you know what I mean? He gave 10 talents to this person, 5 talents to this person, and 1 talent to this person. And the person that had the 1 talent took it and buried it and kept it all for himself. So when I think about people that are living good and they're holding on for themselves and they're not doing it to empower other people, they don't have that purpose to multiply what they're doing to help other people give to. That's how I really look at things.
I love that. Okay, for me, I would say what I look out for, I'll give one good and one bad. And what I look out for is individuals in my life that speak life into me through evidence. Meaning that they're not there just criticize, kiss my butt, or whatever. They're like, hey, no, I don't think you should do this because you're better than this, because of this, because I've seen you go through this, I've seen you help, I've seen you build, I've seen you create. That is evidence-based criticism or whatever that helps you propel. And at the same time, at that point, you get to borrow influence from their belief in you. My metric for purging people out of my life is subtractors. Every time you invite them something, they're like, I don't want to go here, or I'm not going to eat that, or why we got to go here, or this is not me. No, it's just open-minded people that are ready to grow, whatever. Or hey, why do I got to read this book? You know, so subtractors are always trying to subtract value from your life instead of adding value to your life.
Absolutely.
So for me, those would be the things that I look at, whether to add people or subtract people from my life overall.
Yeah, you know, there's 2 things you're doing. You're either giving or you're taking away. There's no in between. You can't just be here. You're not just being here to exist. You're either giving or you're taking away. It's one or the other.
100%. Man, this has been a pleasure. We definitely got to do a part 2. When is the book dropping, or is it in process early next year, this year? What's happening?
First quarter of next year. The first quarter of next year. I just got the cover and stuff done. So you look forward to that. So all those things is done. Got to tighten up a few words here and there, but it'll be first quarter of next year.
All right, yeah, share my book with you too. So it's on Amazon.
All right.
Big multi-author book by many great authors. So a little shameless plug there.
I need it.
All right, perfect. Yeah, we got to do something else. I know there's a lot of stuff in the community. And so I definitely want to put together a speaker series with you too. So let's see if we can make that happen soon.
Yeah, and when election time, don't forget to go. Wayman Furman, he has no candidate, but please stand behind my boy. That's what we're really pushing on. We're really pushing community change in Indio, Oscar, Elaine, all the elected officials out there. Denise out in Coachella, I want to give her a shout out. So we're here to make change and make a difference in the desert and just give these people hope.
I love that. See, he's always working. He's always a man always on the job. That's a man of value right there. All right, you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Drop a comments and can't wait to hear what you guys think. DM me and also follow Jeff as well as I tag him up. All right, you guys have a good one.